Okay, this is about loyalty. Look at the dog. He's fetching a stick, bringing it back to his owner. Okay, there's a sense of like blind faith, blind loyalty here. And it's a puppy. It's something that's very sweet and naive and just cute, cuddly and cute. Okay. So when I saw this card, that song, the song came out, this card flew out, and then I was getting the message of like, I'm hearing bait, I'm hearing hook, I'm hearing fetch. Okay, so I don't know if somebody is, I don't feel like somebody's doing this to you, and I don't feel like those are malicious words, but I feel like there's an interaction between you and another person that's very cat and mouse. It's very, very cat and mouse. And I feel like, one person has to like communicate in a way that might be cryptic in order to get the other person to ask more questions, in order to get the conversation flowing again. So I feel like it's like a bait, it's like a hook, it's like a situation where it's like skirting around the issue. One person says this and the other person is like reading between the lines, and that, things like that, blurred communication. And so those are the kind of like the imageries that I saw. Okay. I want to talk about this reading because I feel like there's a definite beginning and there's an end. So it's very rare that, the cards are very succinct where it's telling the story in its entirety. So let me just start from the beginning. I have here the Four of Swords, stoppage in communication. The way this card is depicted, it's orange, okay? And I think of like orange is something where it's not really red, it's not really green. It's like slow down, right? Like that yellow light or the orange sign or the orange color, it's like in between the spectrum, hot and cold. I feel like there was something that had a lot of potential to get off the ground, and for some reason it was cut short from your actions or the other person's actions, but no one is relinquishing. I mentioned to you guys that you guys are very, 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 very stubborn. Okay? Once you have your mind made up about something, a course of action, a decision, I just feel like you don't really give. Okay? So there's a situation where the strings are like, taut. Okay? The strings are just extended. And if it's like a tug of war, nobody's really winning. And so what needs to happen in a situation where there's a stalemate in the tug of war game is, you splice it right down the middle and both sides fall down. Because that's what I feel. It's like no one is willing to relinquish control. No one's willing to compromise. No one is willing to let the other person win. And so if you slice the cord down the middle, both sides, have been pulling with all their might, they're going to collapse within themselves. So there's a situation here. It hasn't been spliced yet, but it's getting very, very close. It's like a tenuous situation where we have to learn to compromise, where we have to learn to give, where we have to learn to like give the other person some leeway, give the situation some leeway. But more than anything, it's a reflection of yourself too, giving yourself some slack, okay? Not running yourself too ragged to the ground in order to fix situations. Giving yourself some slack, maybe even letting the situation rest so that you can revisit it another time to resolve the situation. Does that make sense? So I feel like there's a stalemate here. And the stalemate has created some type of animosity between you and another person where you're feeling the pains of separation. Three of Swords, okay? So we're going from a Four of Swords, Three of Swords. This is I feel like it's very momentary. I feel like it's very momentary. Is that even a word? I'm thinking momentary, but I'm like, my mind is like monetary. It could be like financially related, where you're not giving slack to the other person. For some of you, if this is like a divorce proceeding, a separation or something like that, you're trying to iron out your financial assets and you're just like, I don't want the other person to get anything. or the other person could be doing this to you, not wanting you to get the house, not wanting you to get the kids, not wanting you to, I'm feeling that. It feels a little uncomfortable. Okay, financial assets, no one is really compromising. But going back to my original train of thoughts, I feel like this is very temporary. Okay, so the word is not monetary, or momentary, but very temporary. Because we're descending, okay? 4 of Swords to the 3 of Swords, and then it's going to be the 2 of Swords, stalemate, revisiting a situation, mulling things over, and then the Ace of Swords, where things will start to, the 2 of you will start to communicate again. So what I'm seeing here with this 3 of Swords is there's a tremendous sense about missing another person. The other person really misses your presence, your communication. You likewise, no matter how stubborn you can be, you really miss the other person, what they bring into the picture, their insights, their perspective. You really miss the perspective that the other person brings into the picture. You might have a problem, and then they would say something that makes your problem seem very, very minuscule. Okay? Not that they try to belittle you or downplay your problems. It's just they have a really high vantage point. Okay? So for example, if you're complaining, and like I said, they're not downplaying your problems. They're not brushing them off. They're not belittling whatever you have to say. I don't see that. I just feel like you're dealing with someone who sees the bigger picture. Okay. So for example, if you're just like, oh my gosh, I came to work, 10 minutes late today, I slipped through the door, and I'm worried that my boss is going to find out, they might have a habit of saying like, well, your boss trusts you. So, even if you come in 10 minutes late, they're not going to question you, or they're not going to think the worst of it. It's like they know exactly what to say to make the problems seem very minuscule, to wave the problems away, and to kind of like calm your nerves and calm your worries. They have a very wise, understanding way about them. And so I feel like you really miss the communication. You really miss the perspective change that they bring into your life. And then I also feel like there was a situation here where there was definitely a big stalemate, okay? Somebody feels a little bit attacked. Somebody feels like we're talking, it's like things taken out of context, things just escalating right before your eyes, and you don't even know how it got that big. And so I feel like, I'm seeing almost like a balloon where it just balloons out of control, and it needs to be popped. Okay, so the question needs to be popped, or like the circumstance, the distance needs to be bridged between the 2 of you, or there's something here where the communication will start up again. I feel like we have here the 7 of Cups. In the traditional Rider-Waite deck, this is like, online type of communication. There might have been a stoppage in communication when it comes to, the things that you do online, okay? Text messages even. I'm hearing Skype, and I'm also hearing like emails and things like that, okay? And so you might be wondering what the other person is doing. You might be, trying to look at their social media, at their online forums of communication, to see what this person is up to see who they're with, to see, what do they have going on in their life? What are they up to? What are they doing? And things like that. So I do see a little bit of a remote spying, because I feel like there are pains and pangs of separation, and, wanting to have that communication, wanting to know what's going on, wanting to know what the other person's up to. And so what's happening here is I feel like this situation is going to smooth itself out, because if you have had trouble seeing eye to eye with this 3 of Swords, there's going to be a coming back together, 3 of Pentacles, exchange of ideas, talking about things. So I feel like things are being replaced, okay? So 3 of Swords, not seeing eye to eye. This is a card that's all about like, hey, let's agree to disagree. We know we're never going to see things from the same perspective, but we can build something of value based on our differences in perspective. And so I feel like there's communication here. And this is where I feel like there's a bait, or there's like a hook, or there's somebody trying to pull the other person back in. So all is not lost, okay, Taurus? With this card, I'm sensing like, it's almost like you're either somebody, like a mutual friend or like a coworker, or somebody's coming into the picture to bring the two of you back together. And out of their sense of loyalty and dedication to that person, I feel like somebody, is showing their sense of loyalty and they're coming back in, okay? So this is why I mentioned the reading's a little bit difficult, because I feel like it's very cat and mouse. It's very like, we haven't been communicating for a while, and I really want us to be okay again. I don't know how to make small talk. I don't know how to broach the topic. I don't know how to get the other person to come back. And so it's like, let your friends help you. That energy where somebody else, that's like a third party, not in a bad way, is coming in and they're coming up with a brilliant idea for a get together, for a conversation starter, for an icebreaker, in order to get the two of you communicating again. Okay. So if you are at a loss of words and you don't know what to say or how to communicate with that person that you've been estranged from, my advice is to ask them something very practical. Ask them something like, hey, I know that you did this before and I have some problems with it. Can I call you so that I can run through it with you? Or can you give me some advice? Or can, I pick your brains? Can I ask you some questions about this topic that you're an expert in? I feel like that's going to get the other person to come back. That's going to open up that channel of communication between you and another person. And I feel like, Taurus, I feel like you're the one doing this to the other person, where you want to communicate with them. You don't know how. And so you're going to, do some type of a bait hook in order to get them to communicate with you. And then from there, you're going to try to see where it leads. So I feel like you have this ingenious idea as to how to get them to come back. Okay. You're dealing with someone who's really very much, they're very loyal to you. Okay. You're kind of like the apple of their eyes. And I feel like with this Fool card, this is like puppy love. Okay. And not in a foolish way, because animals, they're very good at sensing good and bad people. So this is not blind faith. This is not somebody who is like naive about your intention. I feel like they know exactly what you're doing and they're going back into it because they want to communicate too. So I see both people being very stubborn, just incredibly stubborn. And what I'm sensing is they're aware of your antics. You guys are pretty transparent. They're aware of what you're doing, and they're not calling you out on it because I feel like they miss the communication. They don't want that distance. They want to bridge that gap, and they do want to communicate with you and come in and see what you have to say. Okay, so I feel like there's a situation here where you feel like you have a brilliant idea as to how to get them talking again, but they already see through it. They see through the facade. They're able to sniff it out, and they're still coming back. So I feel like somebody's coming back under the guise of helping somebody else with something, but it's not really, it's just conversation starter. Okay. So what I feel here is somebody sees your game. Somebody knows exactly what you're trying to do. And they're pretending like, on the surface, they're falling for it, but they're not really falling for it. They're aware of what you're doing. And likewise, somebody else could be doing this to you, and you are totally aware of their intentions, and you're coming back in because you are anxious to have this communication. Okay. So I feel like the energy is really good, especially the first 6 cards. Just a little bit of a segue. I feel like for those of you who have been thinking about leaving your work environment, your current work environment, we have many reasons to leave. Okay. If you feel like a lot of your friends and your coworkers or friends that have been coworkers are leaving, are retiring, are going off to, look at greener pastures, or thinking about, moving location and things like that, there's like, some big friendships that will be severed in the work environment because somebody's leaving. They're leaving not because I do see just a little bit of toxicity in the work environment, and it's the structure. I feel like something is very inefficient. It's not done well. And so I feel like they're leaving because of that, but also because they're scanning the horizon for greener pastures. So I do feel some people are going to be leaving. And then I feel like because you're still around, you're going to be handsomely rewarded for your loyalty to that work environment. Okay? That can go both ways. If you have been feeling underappreciated and you feel like you want to stay in this work environment, I feel that you're going to be handsomely rewarded. New positions opening up, or even like they're going to keep you in mind for the next round of promotion. Okay? And then on the flip side, if you feel like this work environment has been a little bit draining or a little bit toxic, you might be thinking about leaving, and you might have signed on like some type of I feel like some of you might have found a new job and you're thinking about leaving. So you might have, talked to your supervisor, and then your supervisor might have escalated up the chain of command, and they want to keep you. And so they might be giving you some type of like some type of a bonus, some type of a promotion, some type of an incentive in order to keep you here. Keep in mind, money isn't everything, okay? And sometimes we forget that. I just feel like you made up your mind to leave for a reason. You had very, very good reasons. And I do sense for many of you, it's a toxic work environment, or it's a work environment where you felt, I almost feel like a sense of ethics, like it's a breach of ethics. It's not a good environment to be in. And so no matter how much they give you, you really want to think about it, mull it over. So we have here the Judgment and this Three of Pentacles, which is escalation in your financial situation. Page of Pentacles, job offer coming into the picture. And I like this card because it just screams out exactly what it means, okay? You know how elephants, they make that really loud honking noise with their trunk, I guess? And so this is sort of like something that is very loud, very flamboyant, very noticeable. And it's meant to lure you back in. And so you might have, your own sense of loyalty. You guys are also extremely loyal. And you might be wanting to run back in. But you have to really understand why you decided to leave it in the first place. So even if they're offering you all this incentive, like financial incentive to stay and new positions, the work situation is going to be the same. It's the same environment. Do you still want to stay in it? Or do you see yourself moving on to something or a situation where people are a lot more cooperative, where you're building something of greater value, okay? So you've got some major choices here as well as it relates to your financial life. So I mentioned it's going to be a love reading, and then, all these things spill out. So it's important to spend this month, November, to mull these decisions over. I don't suggest you might be pressed for time. I do see a situation where there's like patience, but there's also fast moving energy and communication coming in as well. So I feel like you might have a very narrow window of time to make a decision to submit that, resignation letter, or even telling the new organization when you want to start. So I do see here a situation where it's time sensitive. It's very delicate. And so if you're being offered like an incentive to stay in a situation, you might want to really think about whether or not it is in your best interest, whether or not you're still growing to the best of your capabilities and to the best of your full potential in the current existing relationship, or relationship or even work situation, before you decide to stay in it. Okay, because I do see there are better things on the horizon for you.